Good to go.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. Um, I know last week we had a session we did a session with some legal things as well. So I was away for a little bit. So I want to just touch base and maybe you guys can bring me up to date on how's everybody doing with your auto flow and live flow. And I'm going to share some stuff afterwards, but are you putting some concentration in getting out and actually seeing and talking and communicating with people? And if you are, what kind of responses are you getting? You may have covered it a little bit while I was away, but if you guys don't mind, just recap it with me so I can find out who's doing what.
I can start. One of the people wanted to kind of touch base with again and start reaching out to more was a friend of mine who's a mortgage broker. And in the past month, he's referred me two amazing clients, and one has already purchased. It's just
Wow.
crazy how like you reconnect, and now I'm top of mind for him again. And he's like, "I want to send you more. Is that okay?" Yep, yeah, go right ahead.
Good. Okay.
That's been
So
great.
that was mortgage broker person you had previously met with and done, and okay.
We knew each other like personally, and then we both kind of got into this business at different times and said, "Oh, cool," but then never really connected or caught up. And then we got coffee, and he was like, is it cool if I send?" Yes, because I sent him a few
Good.
people too, and it's been really great so far. So we're kind of keeping much more in touch now than we had been, which is great.
Well, and that's the important part about, doing that auto flow is that you're actually starting to have the conversations, right? And it's actual conversations. It's not email. It's not a quick text. It's going and actually, I was talking with a person yesterday and amazing how been in the business probably 15 years. And he basically said, most of my business now is actually coming from me going belly to belly, like going out and actually seeing and talking with people. Where before, a lot of his business was online leads. And so really, really important to do, that's why we really want to implement that auto flow is really getting involved, with the live flow to be able to have those conversations. So good for you. That's great. That's a great, great scenario. Anybody else have anything that you can share with me that over the last month or so that where your live conversations or meetings or anything like that has sort of got you some more momentum? Okay. If you, oh, so
Nancy, do you have something to share?
No. I mean, it's just what we talked about last week with the sunflower thing and all of that. I have talked to a lot of people recently. Um,
yeah.
so I didn't really want to kind of beat that to death, but that's kind of what's been going on with me. I'm out with three different buyers this weekend.
Okay. Good. Well, so while I was away, I got a text from a friend of mine, and he said, "Hey, I just saw on Nadine's feed that you guys are in the middle of a rice paddy somewhere." And I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're just in Southeast Asia and stuff." He said, "Hey, I got that. I saw the information you sent out about the Korea and projection for what's going on in the market." And your idea asking about, maybe it's the right time to buy something for the kids. He says, and he's in the winter time, he's actually in Turks and Caicos. He said, when you get back, he said, let's have a quick Zoom meeting. I think it's time I get the kids to each buy a place. Is that okay with you? And can you handle it? I said, absolutely. So had one conversation with them on Monday, having a conversation with them and the kids at noon today. They're not back till April 21st, but he said, I first of all want to make sure you're personally going to handle it. And I said, absolutely. But it's just because of the ongoing conversations, right? It's not all of a sudden I put a notice out to them and said, hey, here's what's going on. It's because they get my newsletter. It's because we chat about, I ask him what's going on in his business. He's in construction and things like that. So you have to have that ongoing. That's where the magic happens. Okay. And so I asked him, I said, okay, well, that's great. Here's what I see going on. And he said, we're going to help them out. So probably they're each going to buy something around 1.5. Is that okay? I said, sure, that works. I can help them. So all it was using that CREA letter as more of just the starting point, right? There's probably really nothing in the letter except it brought it to his attention that I'm in the business, right? And that's where it's really, really important. What messages are you putting out? What conversations are you having? Are you coming across as being knowledgeable and up to date and in the business, being active? Or are you coming across where what they're seeing in the news or on social media, where all the agents or most agents are saying, oh, it's slow, but no business going on. Depending on which hat you're wearing, on what your aura is that you're presenting to your database and people you're communicating with, is whether you're going to get the business or not. Okay. So really important to make sure that you are up to date on what's going on and you're putting out up-to-date information. And again, it could be third-party stuff, like we've got the board stuff, we got CREA, we got AREA, and you can attach that, but just put your own little personalization in it, because that's what makes the difference. Okay. And I know I'll just, as Elizabeth shared, just having those re-engagement conversations, right? So if anybody has any other story to share, then and if not, so it's amazing what happens when, still on a little bit of jet lag. So, you get up at 2:30 in the morning and I thought, okay, well, who can I talk to at 2:30 in the morning?
Not me, please.
I found my friend Gemini. So I said, what are the top 5 activities an Ontario realtor should be doing today in the current market to create a transaction? And my good friend says, in the current Ontario market of March 2026, the landscape has shifted from the frantic bidding war era to a buyer's market characterized by high inventory, roughly 5 to 6 months of supply, and more deliberate decision-making. To create a transaction today, a realtor must move away from order taking and towards aggressive, data-driven advisory. Here are the top 5 activities you should be looking at. Number 1, re-engagement audit database mining. With 60% of Canadian mortgage holders facing renewals in 2025 and 2026 at a higher rates, many homeowners are accidental sellers, people who need to move but are paralyzed by the math. The activity, call every past client to provide a 2026 equity and rate pulse check. Oh, what a great title. A 2026 equity and rate pulse check. The goal, identify those who are overhoused or struggling with new payments. Instead of asking if they want to sell, show them the move up math, how a lateral or downsized move in a soft market can actually strengthen their long-term financial position. So reading that, it's instead of saying, hey, sorry to hear that you're in, a spot, how can, let's see if we can get you moved, come at it from a different perspective, right? If they are in a position where unfortunately, the refinancing they may have stretched it a little bit, then one of the things to do is be proactive and, say, look, here's what we can do. There's opportunities in this marketplace. see if you can get more details from them. But what it does is gets that conversation going again. Okay, more specific. Okay. The other one is what they reference as being a stale listing rescue. Now, in our marketplace, chasing expiries or going after expiries directly is more than not against the board rules, depending on how the listing was highlighted. However, there are ways you can do it. But just let me sort of talk about this. In a market where the average days on market has climbed to over 40 days, pricing is no longer a guess and adjust. It's a day one requirement. So interesting where, you take listings, used to take listings, and if the market was climbing a bit, it didn't matter if you were a little bit above because the market would catch up. Okay. Today, that's not the case. If you are above market, educated consumer is going to know that. And what are the educated consumers looking for? The ones that actually have money, that are actually out looking, they're looking for value. So if your listing asking price isn't showing value, you're more likely not going to get the activity. Because consumers today are looking at how, because there's more listings, they're actually figuring out how to eliminate listings instead of looking at all of them. Okay. So one of the things that you can certainly look at is look at the fact that, you don't have to look at the whole GTA area or the whole Halton area or wherever it is that you work, the Ottawa area. Get more specific. Okay. So really what it talks about is in this marketplace, and we've discussed this, is you're better off to be in a niche position where you are the go-to realtor than the person who has general information about a whole bunch of stuff. Okay. So in a market like this, if you are, for instance, if you're in Toronto and you want to concentrate on a specific building or complex, then really focus in on that, because that's what the consumers are looking for. They can get general information. But who is the person that they're going to go to that they see as being the expert in that particular location or the expert on that particular type of real estate? Are you that person? Are you promoting that kind of information? Because if it's just general information you're putting out, you're not going to get the engagement. Okay. And so one of the things that you want to look at is, yes, you can't, directly go to the door of a expired, because lots of times it says you can't, but it doesn't stop you from putting out social media or having a site or having information on your YouTube station talking about why houses don't sell. Like, are you putting something out on the internet that says, here are the top 5 reasons why a house doesn't sell? Has this happened to you? And then have some plan of action or some way that they can get that information from you. Right? That's okay. Because if they're an expired listing and they're reaching out to you as a realtor, nothing wrong with that. But are you putting that kind of information out? If you're not, you should be, because lots of listings aren't selling. And in a marketplace where lots of listings don't sell, especially if you're in a bigger community, it's never the seller's fault. Doesn't matter, the seller could be pricing could be so high, but they're going to blame the realtor. So if you are going to be in a marketplace where there are going to be listings that expire, are you marketing to try and at least be that person or one of the people that they're going to reach out to? And if you are putting that type of information out and then you're adding that to the niche market where you work, you're going to be one of the higher opportunities for the consumer to reach out to you. versus just giving the general information. Make sense? Okay. And so that's why, like, you really need to look at, what is it in the marketplace where the consumers are having some challenges? Well, interest rates, mortgage renewals, places aren't selling, understanding value, right? So are you up to date on all of those things? Are you in touch with and understanding, how good are you at really doing an evaluation for the area that you work? Okay. Are you putting information out to attract consumers that have a challenge, that they've had challenges selling? Because they will look at options. And all you need to be is possibility of being one of those options to get you the opportunity to give your presentation. Okay. So really important that you're because that's where the consumers are. So really important that you're in that space. Okay. The other thing that is happening right now is investors are starting to look around and see what's going on. Okay. And so it's basically, what we reference as being investor cap rate hunting. Investors aren't emotional. They are, show me the numbers. Do the numbers make sense? What's the cap? What kind of return am I getting? And with a lot of the price adjustments, there are opportunities out there where now as an investor, like even for instance, looking at if some first-time buyers, but maybe they can't do it themselves. But a great opportunity of maybe they've got some university friends in the past and they go like, okay, you know what, why don't 5 of us go in and buy a place? Right? If you think about it, you have 5 people putting 20 grand in each. Now you got $100,000 deposit, $100,000 down. You can start buying a condo with that kind of down payment. It's going to carry itself being rented. Okay. Or there's possibility buying something outside the GTA. Are you putting those ideas out into the marketplace, into your database? Because that's where the opportunities are now. And the investors, if you make sure that, one of the things you may want to look at doing, and I know some people are doing this, is they are putting out once a week, they're putting out the 3 best values. So they're actually putting and finding 3 best values and talking about this week's best values. Are you doing something like that? That's what the consumers are looking for. They're looking for the best deal. Are you promoting it that way? Are you doing your research and saying, hey, you know what? Came across this, came across that. Here's some of the details. Okay. So really important that there's opportunities out there. And so what you have to look at is, how are you being engaged and how are you putting information there that one, you're interested in? So if it's not something, if you don't understand and you're not interested in working with investors and understand how to, the rate of return and things like that, don't put the information out. Okay. If it's not something you understand or you're passionate about, don't do it. Definitely look at being in a niche area, because that's what consumers are looking for. They're looking for the specialists. Okay. One of the other things is today, because we talked about this, is consumers are looking at, when they're online, they're looking at the reason not to contact the realtor, not to look at a property. With your listings, you really need to up the game. Okay. Better photos, full 3D walkthroughs. Consumers are looking for the interaction of the listing. So if you are just putting out, you got your own camera and you went out and you did some photos in a hot market, no big deal. No big deal. In a market where we are in right now, where it swung to, went back to a buyer's market and starting to see some momentum where it's coming back to being a balanced marketplace, make sure that your listings really promote the listing properly. Like, if you've got a survey, make sure you're putting a survey on there. Make sure you've got good photos, 3D walkthroughs. You know, there are systems out there now where consumers can go on and, you know, I know Matterport has it, and there's a couple of other ones. They can actually measure the rooms online and get really interactive with it versus just a stagnant photo. Okay. So really important that if you've got that information, you know, put it out there because that's what the consumers are looking for. Okay. The other thing to keep in mind is consumers are looking for the professional guidance. Are you up to date on all of the different conditions that you're going to come across? You know, it's been, you know, I was chatting to an agent the other day, one of the broker managers, and he said it's amazing how many of the newer agents in a marketplace had never dealt with condition on buyers selling their property. Never even heard of it. Well, really hasn't been around since 2016, 2017, all the way through to 2022. So make sure you're familiar with that because it is a good strategy on being able to sell a house, despite what a lot of the brokers and agents will say. In this marketplace, if it's handled properly, it can be a really good technique. Okay. Any comments? Interesting. Okay. Okay. Well, the other thing to keep in mind is that, you know, hello?
Hello?
Yeah, Tommy.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Hey, Scott. Hey, Michelle.
Yeah.
Hey, Nasir. I'm back.
I
That's
know.
good.
I'm
excited.
back. Trying to get a little bit better every day. I got to go in for my CT scan. I got to do another CT scan this Friday so they could check my abdomen. But hopefully, I got some drains attached to my system because I have a lot of fluid buildup from the pancreatitis. So anyways, I don't want to talk about too much. I just want to say hello. It's been so
that's
long
good.
since I heard you guys' voices. So I want you guys to hear my voice.
Nice. Well, glad you're here. Glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just taking it day by day. And the doctors told me that it's going to take some time, a lot longer than I wanted to, but I have to accept it. But anyways, I have a situation where you know, like okay, so the one buyer that I'm working with, right? Really nice lady, single mom with 3 kids, and you know, they're trying to work out a situation where they could put this up into a home because they're paying like $4,000 a month in rent. And I looked at a place that my client sent me. It's in Toronto. It's a 2-story condo, and they're asking $699. And I said, $6 for a place in Mount Pleasant in the C15 region. I said, that's kind of low. So I did some digging around, and I checked out. I did some digging around, and I found out that the very same owner, the seller, the very same seller who is selling the place, they bought the place back in 2021 for $872, and they haven't really owned it for very long, only 5 years. They want to sell it, and so I told my client that, and I said to my client, okay, the place they're asking price is $699. I do not think that client is going to take a $250,000 loss. I mean, I don't see that. I told her, but let me talk to the agent about that. So I did, and the agent said that, yeah, you're right. They really want high 800,000. It gets me really, really mad when a realtor puts a lowball price whenever they put a listing. I find that very, very common these days in the among most like I didn't know. I mean, that is the trend that I see among listing agents, putting a listing on the market at a very, very low price. The seller definitely doesn't want that price. They want a higher price. It's like false hope. My clients look and say, "Oh, wow, I can get this place for $6.99 or anywhere near that." It's like false hope.
Yeah, and it's
They're
important
selling
that,
false hope.
but you did what you needed to do, which is educate the buyer and just say, look, this is, I would just only reference it. It's a marketing strategy. Unfortunately, some agents feel that this is, a good strategy. I don't. And there's lots of properties that will be at a lower price that'll be sitting around for a long time. And again, the question is, how motivated are the sellers? And in this marketplace, there will be lots of people that will be trying the market, not the ones you really want to work with. And then there'll be the ones that are the true motivated sellers. That's where you want to be working and doing your business. And you just have to educate. Unfortunately, Tom, you have to educate the consumer and just say, it's a marketing strategy. We see listings listed at $1. We've seen them all over. There's nothing in the guidelines that say that a house has to be priced at any particular value. So, yeah, Julia.
This is a really good opportunity to show your value. So you do your homework, you go back with the information, and then you have to be the go-to instead of them, searching online and trying to make up their own decisions. So it does mean a lot more work, but that's what we're here for. So to do the work for our clients. But it does give you a really good opportunity to show your value. Even, after I sold my last condo, somebody in the building tried listing way higher. Another one tried listing really low to get multiple offers with a long offer date, hoping to get a preemptive offer. That's another strategy that they're using in the city. And my client was like, why didn't we do that? And I'm like, because it's not going to work for them. Because I could show you 3 other scenarios in these 4 buildings where people have tried that. I mean, it's an unusual market right now. It's hard to put your finger on it. And, we overperformed. You should be happy for that. So.
Yeah. And I agree that, yeah, and it should be part of your initial conversations with your buyers and sellers, right? And explaining.
It was with me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. So you have those conversations and you talk about, look, there's many different ways of marketing a property, and we're going to see consumers are going to be, inundated with all kinds of different marketing strategies. Some of them are asking, low prices as low as $1. Other ones will be, hundreds of thousands less than where maybe the value is. But that's why it's really important that we work together. And whatever you see online, you send it to me. And this is what I tell my clients. I said, you send it to me. And because I am a licensed realtor, I can actually get more detailed information about the property, the history of it. And then I just share that with you and we have a discussion. Fair enough? And they go, oh, okay. But have those conversations early. Yeah, Nancy.
Yeah, I've been working with some buyers for quite some time now. And we did discuss this at the meeting last week. The one that I mentioned that there was 12 offers on. It ended up they had 36 offers. I know the property was listed for 62.5, and my guys are jumping all over it. It ended up selling for 320. My guy called me and said, we want to make an offer. Where should we be? And I said, well, I think you should be around 260. They didn't do the offer, but then, 36 offers.
Wow.
Here's
yeah. And where did you felt the property was around 260?
Yeah.
In that range, value wise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, right. So in that particular case, the strategy may have worked for the seller with that many offers to be able to push the number higher. But at the same time, it is frustrating for consumers and it's frustrating for other realtors. So it's a matter of how do you explain that in when you're dealing with both, seller and buyer. But that's where your professionalism has to come in. That's where your conversations need to be talking, that you need to talk about those scenarios that could happen, that we're going to see. And they're not going away.
Yeah, I know I've told you guys the story of my client who I did that whole cover letter and graphs and everything for because we're standing in a listing that's listed at 329. And I had to explain to her it's actually going to sell for around 530. And the other situation I'm seeing, and I saw it again the other day, was there's an offer date. They get multiple offers. And they say, you know what, we don't like any of these. We're relisting at the price we actually want. And it's like $100,000 or $200,000 more than the original list price, which I'm at a point now where I do the same thing Scott does. And I always say to my clients, send me whatever you see so I can, check out the brokerage remarks and see what their plan of action is. But I'm at a point now where my client now sends me stuff that's been relisted at a higher price. She's like, I knew they were going to do that. Because we've seen it so often, which is frustrating. But I did say to her the other day, I said, you can just come work with me, like at this point. But yeah.
And that's why it's important to be on top of, being involved, being on top and doing the research and understanding that that's a conversation you're going to have. Right?
Nancy has her hand up.
Yeah.
Another question, Nancy?
I just think as far as when people play those games, when you list a property and you have an offer date and nothing happens, I've seen it so many times before too, where the realtor doesn't go back onto the listing and change it. So you're looking at it going, oh, offer date was like 3 weeks ago and you didn't sell it. Then you see a price increase. And I think a price increase in that situation is a very poor reflection on your professionalism.
Well, and again, it comes down to who is driving the bus, the realtor or the seller. Right? In a marketplace where sometimes agents just aren't doing enough prospecting, enough, live flow, don't have momentum, they unfortunately, and it doesn't mean just this year, I've seen it throughout my career where agents then will have okay, I've got a listing, even though it's not a motivated seller. The seller says, okay, I want you to market it this way. I want you to do this and this, with the hope that maybe they would get another lead from it or something magical will help. And that happens. But if you are an agent that is consistently working your database, working either a geofarm area or a people farm area or a niche marketplace where you have consistent business happening, then you get to choose on who and how you want to work with people. Right? And that's a way better way of doing business than it is being an order taker and just, because you have access to listing something on the MLS.
Some clients will micromanage you throughout the thing. And you don't let that happen. Otherwise, it can actually harm the relationship too.
Yeah. So, and again, it just gets down to when there's very little business in certain agents, when something does come up, even though it may not be the ideal situation, they'll sell themselves on the idea, well, I'm going to make it work. I'm sure it'll start out this way. But when you have consistent business, consistent opportunities coming your way because you are doing your prospecting, doing your marketing, doing all the stuff, you get to choose, as I say, you get to choose who and how you want to work. Okay? There's nothing in your licensing that says you have to take and work with everybody. Okay? Just remember that. Okay. Any other situations that you're seeing going on? Anybody else feeling the momentum? As I say, I've been back a week and just doing my research, going through, I'm even just driving around, I'm seeing sold signs. The activity is there. This week's probably going to be a little bit more quieter, or this week and possibly, I know there are, again, even the roads are empty. Like it took me 20 minutes to get to work versus 40 minutes because of March break, right? But there's still, the magic of, with the magic of technology, just as I'm doing, I'm having Zoom meetings while they're away and setting up appointments when they get back. So don't just sit back and think they're away, so we're not going to communicate. Doesn't take, hey, as I said, when I was away, I ended up getting up at midnight and doing a Zoom meeting with potential buyers, and I'm glad I did, because I've been trying for months to get them to make a decision about even thinking about buying. Well, now because of that midnight Zoom meeting where I was on their lunch break. Michelle's picked up the ball with them, and we're meeting them Friday to put out a complete game plan on buying something in Toronto. Right? So you can use the technology because it's there, use it to be able to move your appointments along.
I would also take a minute to shout out Julia, because I am, still learning the Toronto market, and she was my first call when these people started asking me about very specific neighborhoods. I was like, nope, I gotta call Julia to help me learn some more. So thank you, Julia.
Yeah. But again, like today, banks didn't change. What message are you going to put out to your people? Anybody? Yeah, let's hear.
So when a client even asked me how the market is, I said, now I'm telling them it's very active.
Yep.
If the price is right, it's going like there was like 2021. They're selling right away. Within 2 weeks, 4 weeks, they're gone. Price it right and done.
Yeah.
Don't price it right, then they're sitting, 90 days, 100 days, whatever.
Yeah.
And same thing with my listing, that Applefield.
Yeah.
949 is when we listed it. I had given her in writing, your home will be valued after decluttering and painting between 8 and 850. It doesn't mean somebody could not pay more.
Yeah.
But that's what, and we got exactly 820.
820.
Same thing with the Burlington house. They expected 1.8. I said, no way, it's worth between 1.5, 1.6, 1.550, 60, whatever.
Yeah. And that's educating the consumer. That's being the professional instead of being an order taker. Right? So today, again, you've got today where you've got, you can basically talk about, what's happening with, with the rates. Use that to put something out, right? Use it to a point where you can talk about, what's happening with the rates holding. It indicates that, yeah, right now, people are waiting to see if the rates are at the bottom. Well, I'm going to suggest that where we are today, rates are at the bottom. You can also talk about that, just say, hey, look, we had a meeting today, and, the broker record of our company, who was on the road all the time, driving around, mentioned he's seen all kinds of sold signs. That's not going to get reported until next month, right, in the media. So why not be ahead of it and put that and talk about that in your posts and saying, we see the momentum. Momentum has already started. We are seeing multiple offers, right? And as you heard on today, there's multiple offers happening. That needs to be the messaging. Because you want to then say to people, look, it's very difficult in any business, doesn't matter, real estate, stock market, to know when the bottom and the top is. And unfortunately, some people wait too long and they miss out on the opportunities. Opportunities are there right now. And that's where you've got to then reach out to them and say, today the rates didn't change. What this indicates is the fact that they know they're seeing stability. We're seeing sold signs. Well, how do you move them forward? Okay. That's got to be the important message. And way better if you could do it by a live conversation. Obviously put it into a post, but live conversations specific to the individuals is way, way better, because you get to have those interactions versus just a one-way.
There was also, I was talking to Matthew last week, and one of his posts, he did a video about his specific market, Oakville, Burlington area, on last month's stats. And I noticed on his profile that that specific post had a lot of sent. You can see how many times like a post has been shared directly to somebody through either copying a link or direct messaging. And that one had over 30. So I said, what, like, is that other people sharing? He said, no, I actually, after I posted it, I sent it to specific people I've been having conversations with, just to say, just wanted to make sure that you're seeing this in your feed, because you don't know if, like, when or if someone is scrolling. So sending them a direct message, even if it's the same content you just posted, just to let them know, you know, based on our conversation last week or based on where you're at in thinking about buying, I wanted to make sure that you got this information. And A, you're repurposing that content, and B, you're making it personalized to them. Even though it's the same content, you're taking the extra step to send them that private message.
Any thoughts on how you would put that message out today? What would that message be?
I think the market's already reached the bottom.
Okay, market's
Based
reached the
on
bottom.
rates, yeah.
Yeah.
People are just waiting for the rate to be back to COVID. It ain't happening.
Okay.
I was hoping the war kind of helps us in one way, but obviously, no.
Yeah.
And gas prices. Oh my
Okay.
God.
So I'm just going to read a couple stuff that I sort of came across. And, you know, just talking about the dialogue. And it just so happened, like I'm telling you, my buddy there, Gemini, is bang on, because this was at 2:30 this morning, and it says, here's the script. This script is designed for the current March 2026 landscape. Okay. The Bank of Canada has held the policy rate at 2.25%. And while we aren't seeing the cliff, some feared many of your clients who bought in 2021 are renewing this year at rates roughly 2% higher than their original term. The goal isn't to sell them, it's to be the data expert who helps them sleep better at night. Now at 2:30 in the morning, Gemini knew the rates were going to be held. That's pretty good. So here's a little bit of a dialogue. Just says, hi, your name, brokerage. I'm doing my quarterly equity and rate pulse check for my past clients and want to reach out. We're officially into the spring 2026 market. And since I know a lot of people in your cohort are approaching mortgage renewals this year, I just wanted to see how you're feeling about that. Simple, right? Another one, the reason I'm calling is that while the headlines can be a bit loud, the actual numbers are stabilized. The Bank Canada just held at 2.25%, and we're seeing 5-year fixed rates settle around 3.9 to 4.2 range. I've actually already pulled a quick equity snapshot for your property. Even with the market softening about 5 to 7% over the last year, you're still sitting on significant amount of gain compared to when you bought. Keep in mind, though, don't send that out to somebody that bought in 2021, 2022. This is for some people in your database who've been there for a while, okay? I'd love to send that over to you just so you have the real number for your net worth today. Not asking about buying or selling real estate, right? So another one, simple as, most of my clients are asking one of two things right now. One, how much will my payments actually go up? And I have a calculator that can show you the exact delta based on current rates. Does it make sense to sell now and downsize, deleverage before my renewal hits. Are either of those thoughts crossing your mind, or are you guys planning to just stay put and ride out this term? Like, simple dialogue. Okay. Another one would be no pressure at all if you're staying put. I just wanted to make sure you aren't guessing at your home's value based on the neighbor's asking price from 6 months ago. Can I drop that equity snapshot in your email, or would you prefer a quick 5-minute Zoom later this week to look at the renewal math together? Simple dialogue that, is just starting the conversations. Okay. So really, really important that you have those, again, in the beginning of the year, I said to everybody, and I said to Michelle, we're doubling down on our database. I've had more meetings, more, Zoom calls, more get together, more pop bys with them. And I'm getting business from it. Okay, we're getting business from it because they know we're in the marketplace. Does your database know you're in the marketplace? Does your community know you're in the marketplace? Actively in the marketplace. Okay? Don't assume. Okay? Just don't assume. There's business out there. There is, and the ones that are going to be working consistently are going to get the majority of the business. Right? Okay, who's got new listing? You sold all yours, which is a great thing. Julia, you sold all yours?
Yes, just waiting to close, and I have another lease coming up. That's St. Clair area. So
okay, good. Any new listings? Who wants to share with what you've got, or what do you need?
I've got 7 listings.
Great.
Well, not really. Some of them are vacant land that like they're just not moving. They've gone completely stale. But my latest listing up the road here, it's gonna sell. Like it's gonna sell soon.
Think positive.
I try. It's just vacant land is a rough go in the winter.
What about all the people that are coming to the Cottage Life show? Do they want vacant land?
They will once they talk to me.
Exactly.
That's good. Good. Okay. Yep, Julia.
I might be getting some free tickets to the Luxury Life show or something, like Lux Life, I think. It's up at the Toronto Congress Center.
Okay.
I've asked for 50 tickets, and they it's one of those places that designers go. Well, they'll have all the new appliances, so it might be a good Instagram kind of opportunity. Michelle, showing what cool tools are coming out in kitchens and bathrooms and building. So
Great idea.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll share. I don't know when the tickets are coming, but I'll share those with you. I think it's April 19th weekend.
Okay.
And we have
And
we can send Cottage Life show tickets as well if anybody wants them.
okay, I got mine. I'll see you
Yeah,
Friday.
me too.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other listings? Any other buyer stuff? Any other situations that you have questions on? No? Okay. Please, please, please get out and have conversations. That's where the business is happening. It is old school, belly to belly, talking, having conversations. Okay. You may not, if it doesn't start as a in-person conversation, it could certainly start as a text or a direct message, whatever, but you gotta get in front and with the consumers. That's where the magic's happening right now. And I'm getting that from top producing agents that, are doing exactly the same thing where they're doubling down. They're having more conversations, more meetings in person. Because there is a lot of noise out there that consumers are getting, and really important to be the professional, to guide them the right way and move them along. And it's going to be patient because it's going to take a while. Okay. But it will happen. You just got to be consistently doing it. All right. Okay. If there's nothing else, then we're good to go. And if anything does come up, let us know. Okay.
Thank
All
you
right.
for
Good
your
to see
time.
everybody.
Nice to see you.
Bye.
Bye.